The political temperature in West Bengal has reached a fever pitch. Ahead of the 2026 elections, the streets are crowded and the electorate is exhausted. For 15 years, the Trinamool Congress has held a tight grip on the state machinery, and after a decade and a half of the exact same administration, voter fatigue is practically baked into the landscape. Compounding corruption scandals, a stagnant job market, and decaying public institutions have left citizens desperate. The desire for a hard reset is palpable across almost every demographic. We are watching tens of millions of frustrated voters preparing to stand in line to demand a new direction. When political fatigue drags on this long, voters tend to look for the fastest, heaviest weapon available to smash the status quo. They develop an appetite for a sweeping, overwhelming regime change. In a broken system, the natural electoral reflex is to throw out the incumbent by elevating a massive, powerful alternative. The Bharatiya Janata Party presents itself as exactly that. They campaign on the double-engine promise, aligning the state government entirely with Delhi to unleash rapid, highly centralized development. But replacing a heavily entrenched regional power with an imposing national powerhouse creates a serious problem. We have to ask if trading one absolute authority for another actually solves the root issues of governance. While a massive mandate looks like the only way out of stagnation, that kind of absolute stability creates a new set of risks for a state built on the right to disagree. To see why that stability is so dangerous, we have to look at how both sides are already positioning themselves to exercise total, unchecked control. The incumbent Trinamool Congress knows that fighting an election on 15 years of administrative track records is a losing battle, so they aren't doing it. Instead, they have pivoted to cultural protectionism. They are actively framing Bengal as a distinct culture, currently under violent siege by the institutional power of Delhi. This has birthed the bizarre phenomenon of fish politics. In the middle of an election decided by economic futures, candidates are literally marching through the streets of Kolkata, carrying giant katla fish. Local politicians are using this everyday staple to stoke fears that a national opposition party will erase regional food habits, enforce vegetarianism, and bulldoze local identity. This is a calculated trap. It forces citizens to vote defensively to protect their cultural identity, entirely distracting them from demanding accountability for the state's rampant corruption. On the other side, the BJP's strategy extends far beyond simply winning legislative seats. They are engineering a methodical plan to alter the state's social and cultural makeup. This animated data grid illustrates their core mechanism, the Special Intensive Revision. The Election Commission is aggressively auditing the electoral rolls to identify and remove massive swaths of voters. The policy relies on strict detect, delete, deport rhetoric aimed directly at undocumented migrants, systematically severing specific minority demographics from the voting pool. Simultaneously, they are conducting highly targeted outreach to select groups, like the Matua community. By promising expedited citizenship to these specific refugee populations, they are actively manufacturing a loyal, solidified voting bloc. This dual mechanism of targeted deletion and integration allows the challenger to build a majoritarian firewall. They secure absolute control without ever needing to propose a localized economic vision. These modern power grabs make terrifying sense when viewed through the lens of West Bengal's historical political environment. From the independence movement against the British to continuous street protests against modern policies, Bengal's societal DNA is built on anti-establishment fervor and radical debate. The ultimate cautionary tale of suppressing that DNA is the 34-year uninterrupted rule of the Communist Left Front. Decades of absolute, unchallenged power inevitably led to severe economic stagnation, fleeing capital, and an environment where questioning the state could cost citizens their livelihoods. Bengal's own history proves a chilling rule. Whenever any single party is granted overwhelming, unchecked power, they eventually suffocate the state's fundamental culture of dissent. This brings us back to the terrifying trap of the 2026 election. Voters are pinned between two monolithic options, each seeking total dominance. If a highly centralized majoritarian party takes absolute control of the state apparatus, the local checks and balances disintegrate. We have already seen how central agencies and state police forces can be seamlessly repurposed to permanently silence political opposition, local activists, and critical journalists. The uniquely dissenting, argumentative Bengali voice is at high risk of being flattened and homogenized into a standardized, compliant national template. Giving either the incumbent or the challenger a supermajority guarantees the death of the state's last remaining spaces for democratic protest. Looking at this 2x2 decision matrix, we can apply a concept from game theory to solve this trap. It is the minimax strategy, acting to minimize the maximum possible loss. In electoral terms, voters must make the active choice to deny anyone an absolute majority. A hung assembly or a fragile coalition forces opposing political factions to fight each other over policy rather than uniting their power to oppress the citizens. Politicians only negotiate, compromise, and actually listen to the public when they live in constant fear of their government collapsing. A weak, fractured government is the most potent weapon Bengal has. It forces power back into the hands of the people, one compromise at a time.